She moved quietly through the building every morning, pushing her cart with practiced ease, her footsteps soft against the polished floors. To most people, she was invisible, just another janitor in a gray uniform, hair tied back, eyes lowered, doing work no one wanted to notice. Conversations stopped when she passed, not out of respect, but because she simply didn't register as someone worth acknowledging. Officers, trainees, and staff walked past her without a glance, boots echoing with purpose while she blended into the background like part of the walls themselves. In a place where rank, posture, and confidence defined value, her presence seemed insignificant. The environment itself reinforced that perception. This was a facility built on hierarchy and discipline, where authority was worn openly on shoulders and sleeves. People here were trained to assess status in seconds: who to salute, who to obey, who to ignore. And she, carrying a mop instead of insignia, fell into the lowest category without question. No one asked her name. No one wondered where she came from. They assumed her world was limited to cleaning schedules and supply closets. That assumption made them comfortable, even careless around her. Some spoke freely in her presence, confident that she didn't understand their language of codes, abbreviations, and tactical shorthand. Others barely moved out of her way, forcing her to pause and wait while they passed, eyes fixed forward. A few offered polite nods, but even those were gestures of habit, not respect. The unspoken rule was clear: she did not belong to their world. She was there to serve it, not to be part of it. Yet beneath that quiet exterior was a sharp awareness. She noticed everything: the way people stood when a superior walked by, the subtle changes in tone when orders were given, the small breaches of discipline that slipped through when authority wasn't watching. She saw how quickly people judged, how easily they reduced a human being to a uniform or a role. Each dismissal, each ignored greeting reinforced the gap between who they thought she was and who she actually was. What made the underestimation so powerful was how complete it was. No one questioned it. No one looked twice. In their minds, the story was already written. A janitor was a janitor, nothing more. That certainty created the perfect illusion, one she never rushed to correct. She understood the advantage of being unseen, of existing outside expectations. In a world obsessed with appearances, invisibility became its own kind of camouflage. This quiet dismissal wasn't just personal, it reflected a deeper flaw in the culture around her. People had learned to equate worth with visible symbols of authority, forgetting that experience, discipline, and capability do not always announce themselves. They trusted what they could see and ignored what they couldn't. And so, day after day, they walked past her, unaware that the person they overlooked understood their world far better than they understood hers. By underestimating her so completely, they set the stage for a moment that would challenge everything they believed about rank, respect, and power. Because when someone is judged only by appearances, the truth, when it finally surfaces, hits harder, sharper, and with far greater impact. There was a reason she moved with such calm precision, a reason her posture never truly slouched no matter how heavy the work became. Long before she wore a janitor's uniform, her days had been defined by structure, pressure, and standards that left no room for excuses. Her past was not something she spoke about, not because she was ashamed of it, but because she had learned the value of silence. In the world she came from, words were chosen carefully, and identity was proven through action, not. Her training had reshaped the way she thought. Every sound carried meaning, every movement potential risk. She instinctively noted exits, blind spots, and patterns of behavior, even while emptying trash bins or wiping down railings. What others saw as routine work, she treated as controlled motion. Years of elite preparation had taught her that awareness never switched off. You could change uniforms, but you could not turn discipline on and off like a light. No one around her suspected that she understood their routines better than they did themselves. She recognized the cadence of their commands, the shortcuts some took when they believed no one important was watching, the difference between confidence rooted in training and confidence built on ego. She could hear when a voice lacked certainty, see when a stance was slightly off, notice when focus drifted. These were details most people missed, but for her, they stood out like signals in the dark. Her background was deliberately buried beneath normalcy. She had learned, long ago, that revealing strength too early invited unnecessary conflict. Staying hidden allowed her to observe without interference. It allowed her to measure people honestly, without the filter they put on when they knew they were being evaluated. In anonymity, she saw their true habits, their strengths, and their weaknesses. That knowledge was far more valuable than recognition. There were moments when memory surfaced uninvited. A certain tone of command would echo something from her past, or the smell of cleaning chemicals would briefly overlap with the metallic scent of equipment from another life. But she never let it show. Control was second nature. Emotional discipline had been drilled into her until it became instinct. She had learned how to carry heavy experiences without letting them weigh down her expression. What made her hidden background so powerful was not just the level of training she possessed, but the choice to keep it concealed. She did not need validation. She had already been tested in ways the people around her could not imagine. Their assumptions did not diminish her. They protected her space. In being underestimated, she gained freedom. Her silence was intentional. Her restraint was earned. And while everyone else saw only a janitor blending into the background, beneath that ordinary exterior lived a history forged in pressure, precision, and accountability. A history that, when revealed, would not need explanation, because those who recognized it would understand instantly. The moment came without drama or warning. There was no raised voice, no attempt to draw attention, no visible shift in her expression. It happened in the middle of an ordinary exchange, when casual arrogance and careless behavior had reached a point where silence was no longer an option. She paused her work, straightened slightly, and spoke just once. The words themselves were simple, almost understated, but their structure, timing, and tone carried a weight that cut through the noise of the room. What she used was not common language. It was a precise sequence delivered with exact cadence, the kind of verbal code that only existed within a closed circle of elite training. To an outsider, it might have sounded like a technical phrase or an obscure reference, but to those who recognized it, the effect was immediate and undeniable. The room seemed to tighten, as if an invisible line had been drawn across it. Postures changed before minds fully caught up. Shoulders pulled back, feet adjusted. Conversations died mid-sentence. Instinct took over, drilled into muscle memory through years of repetition. The code did what it was designed to do. It triggered recognition before reasoning. This was not something learned from manuals or movies. It was something earned, something burned into the nervous system through exhaustion, pressure, and consequence. Her delivery was flawless, no hesitation, no embellishment. She didn't look around to see who was watching, didn't wait for acknowledgement. That confidence was what made it impossible to dismiss. Anyone could repeat words, very few could deliver them correctly under the right conditions. The precision revealed familiarity, and familiarity revealed authenticity. For the first time, they really looked at her. Not the uniform, not the cleaning cart, but the way she stood, the stillness in her movements, the calm in her eyes. Suddenly, details that had gone unnoticed snapped into focus. Her composure made sense. Her awareness made sense. The way she had always seemed slightly apart from the environment now had context. The power of that moment wasn't in authority being demanded, it was in authority being recognized. She didn't explain herself or offer proof. She didn't need to. The code was proof enough. It carried history, standards, and expectation all in one. Those who understood it knew exactly what it implied about the person who used it. Silence filled the space, not awkward but heavy with recalibration. Assumptions collapsed in real time. The hierarchy they thought they understood suddenly felt incomplete. In one brief exchange, the roles they had assigned without thought were exposed as shallow and unreliable. She returned to her work as if nothing had changed, but everything had. The environment felt different now, charged with a new awareness. The turning point had passed, and there was no going back. Without raising her voice or stepping out of her role, she had rewritten the entire room's understanding, using nothing more than a code that spoke louder than any explanation ever could. The reaction was immediate, almost electric. The moment the code left her lips, the atmosphere shifted as if an invisible switch had been flipped. What had been casual chatter, careless movement, and subtle dismissals stopped abruptly. Every pair of eyes that had once barely registered her presence now focused intently, and every body that had slouched or leaned unconsciously straightened as though guided by an unseen hand. There was no confusion, only recognition, a sudden, unspoken acknowledgement that the woman they had overlooked was no longer someone to ignore. It wasn't just posture that changed. Their tone, once informal and joking, became measured and precise. Conversations that had been interrupted by her presence now fell silent entirely. The individuals who had laughed, whispered, or moved with self-assurance felt a shift in their very perception of authority. The janitor they had casually ignored had become, in an instant, the center of control. Respect didn't need to be demanded, it was instinctively given because what she represented was undeniable. The transformation went deeper than surface-level obedience. There was a subtle recalibration of hierarchy and internal realignment where everyone assessed their position relative to her. Those who had assumed superiority based on uniform, rank, or casual familiarity suddenly realized they had misjudged her. They recognized that the qualities they equated with authority, discipline, focus, precision, and awareness were present in her, and they were present in abundance. There was a moment of collective understanding. Power was not in the title, the position, or the outward appearance. It was in capability, in confidence, and in mastery. What made the change so compelling was the efficiency and inevitability of it. It didn't rely on confrontation, loud assertion, or threats. It didn't rely on demonstrating strength through physicality or aggression. Instead, it emerged from the quiet confidence of someone who had spent years mastering herself and her craft. The moment she activated the seal code, the response wasn't negotiated, it was automatic. Every muscle, every instinct, every conditioned behavior aligned with the recognition that the rules had shifted. The room felt smaller, almost compressed, as if space itself had been redefined by her presence. People who had once moved with casual ease now approached tasks with caution, mindful of the authority that had been revealed. Their movements became deliberate, their eyes sharper, their attention more focused. In a sense, respect manifested physically first. It was in the alignment of bodies, the adjustment of stances, the unspoken acknowledgement that the moment had passed into a different reality. And through it all, she remained calm, almost invisible again, resuming her work as if nothing had occurred. Yet the impact lingered, invisible yet undeniable. She had reminded everyone in the room that authority is not inherited, purchased, or assumed. It is earned, recognized, and internalized. In that instant, the line between underestimation and awareness had been erased, leaving behind only the unmistakable clarity of respect properly assigned. The transformation wasn't temporary or superficial. It had fundamentally altered perception, planting a lesson that would remain long after the cleaning cart had disappeared around. The lesson of her presence extended far beyond the immediate room, beyond the moment when heads had snapped up and bodies had straightened. It was a reminder that the world is quick to judge based on appearances, titles, and the assumptions we carry about what someone should be. Too often, people equate authority with visibility, believing that someone who wears a uniform, carries a title, or occupies a high-status role is automatically deserving of attention and respect, while those who perform tasks behind the scenes are merely functional, incidental, or invisible. Her quiet demonstration overturned that assumption entirely, showing that respect cannot be dictated by outward symbols alone. It must be earned, recognized, and internalized. She had never asked for recognition or sought to prove herself to anyone. Her training had ingrained in her the understanding that real authority lies in competence, awareness, and discipline. It is silent, precise, and unwavering. When the code was delivered, it was not about commanding obedience, it was about revealing truth. Those who witnessed it recognized immediately that the qualities they had previously associated with authority were fully present in her, regardless of the janitor's uniform. It was a subtle but profound lesson. Identity and capability exist independently of the roles people are assigned or the expectations others impose upon them. The impact on those around her was lasting. They could no longer rely on assumptions or superficial judgments. They had seen firsthand that competence can be hidden, that power can reside in the most unexpected places, and that leadership is measured not by outward appearances, but by skill, composure, and presence of mind. Every interaction after that moment carried a new layer of awareness, a reconsideration of how they perceived others. The lesson was not delivered through confrontation or reprimand, but through undeniable demonstration of ability and confidence. On a deeper level, the story spoke to the universal human tendency to underestimate those we do not immediately understand. It highlighted how easily society assigns value based on what is visible rather than what is earned, and how that undervaluation can blind people to true talent and capability. Her role as a janitor had been irrelevant. What mattered was the experience, training, and mastery she carried beneath the surface. This challenged every person present to question their assumptions, to reconsider how they evaluate worth, and to recognize that respect should not be granted solely by appearance or position, but by true skill and character. Ultimately, her demonstration was empowering not just for those who witnessed it, but for anyone who has ever been underestimated or overlooked. It served as a reminder that invisibility can be a source of strength, that patience and preparation can transform perception, and that authenticity and competence will always be recognized by those who know how to see. Respect is not about entitlement, it is about recognizing the substance behind the surface, valuing what is real over what is assumed, and understanding that true authority is earned through mastery, integrity, and the quiet confidence to act decisively when the moment demands it. In the end, she proved that appearances are fleeting, but the power of skill and self-discipline commands lasting acknowledgement.